Well, hello there. I do apologize for the hiccups earlier on. We seem to have some technical problems. I do hope you can see us now. I'm just waiting for um, confirmation that it is going live indeed. What happened early on was that the restream didn't connect well with my LinkedIn account for some weird reason, but hopefully this should be fine. Um, yep, perfect. Okay, I think we're live now, Sean.
Excellent. Thank you
we're
so much for
we're
having
actually on
me.
LinkedIn. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thanks for joining us again. By the way, this is the second live that we both are doing. So hope you stay on there, not give up on us. Let me just introduce ourselves. So I'm Joyce, Marketing Tech. We're a one-stop shop for affordable mobile apps and search engine optimization. I'm really pleased to have Sian Stephens here with us. She's a corporate GDPR solicitor and a privacy lawyer from Payne Hicks Beach, and she's here to help us make some sense of the legislation surrounding this topic, and this topic being the death of the third party Google cookie and what this means for agencies and developers. Just a quick intro. Oh, before that, would you like to say hello, Sean?
Hello to viewers. Yes, my name's Sian Stephens. I'm a solicitor at Payne Hicks Beach, specialising in pure data protection law.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Sean. Just to frame this or put this into context, this is becoming a hot topic as many marketing professionals are being affected or will be affected, most definitely, by the change in 2024 with Google. So, why is that? Well, we know that this change affects consumers, i.e., the people that agencies market to. And these are the consumers who use Google Chrome on their phones, their tablets, and their desktops. And we know that Google has at least 65%, if not more, of the browser market. So they have 65% of the share of the market for browsers. And this is therefore going to affect marketers and agencies who use third party cookies to track user behavior. So consumers who are Google Chrome users, they won't be subject to third party cookies the way that we know it come 2024. Now, other browsers such as Firefox, Mozilla Firefox, and Safari, which you use on your iOS devices, they've already phased this out. They phased out third party cookies. So it's just what remains is for Google to take the next steps there. So, Sean, I'm going to start asking you a couple of questions to kick us off. So the first question I'm going to ask you is Google will be phasing out, as we know, third-party cookies on their browsers in 2024. So what does this actually mean and how will it affect agencies and developers?
Yeah, so let's talk firstly about what are third-party cookies, and then we'll talk about what this actually means. So, a third-party cookies are cookies that are set by a website other than the one you are currently on, and you can have, for example, a like button on your website, which will store a cookie on a visitor's computer, and that cookie can later be accessed by Facebook to identify visitors and see which websites they have visited. So this is a third-party cookie, and examples would include, as we'll talk about, Google Ads or an advertising service which creates third-party cookies to monitor which websites are visited by each user, and this is the main technology to show you products that you have previously searched for on a completely different website, or a support chat function that's being provided by a third-party service. So simply, third-party cookies are mostly used to track users between websites and display more relevant ads between websites to users. So how will this affect the industry? What is happening? So the loss or the death, as we're saying, of the third-party cookie will make it much more harder for advertisers to track users across the internet and send specific targeted ads. This is likely to provide less effective advertising and may overall reduce the size of the digital advertising industry and the market. As we've said, the third party cookie is dying out as such. And this has been really basically in response to privacy concerns. Apple and Google have plans to phase out third-party cookies, and as we discussed, Google are doing this by 2024, so that's coming in quite soon next year. And this will have a profound impact on the digital advertising market, and yeah, is likely to lead generally in that direction of the death of the third party cookie. And the loss of cookie, will make it harder for publishers to monetize on their websites, which we see happening. And they'll no longer be able to sell target advertising, and this could lead to quality of online content that we'll be able to read and have access to, and publishers to move to other ways of making money on their websites, such as subscription models,
Mm-hmm.
which we've also started to see,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not what we had in the past, should I say?
Mhm. Yes, and if I may add, FT, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, The Economist, for example, these are examples of media owners who've already taken this step years ago to charge subscription for their content, and they've quite successfully done so over the years. So that
Mm.
means that they don't actually have to make any income from advertising or less income from advertising, but actually charge subscription to people who want to access their content, for example. So the next question is, why are cookies coming to an end? We didn't answer the question earlier on, so if you want to tell us a bit
Um,
more about that.
Yeah, so the reason for them coming to an end is really, a focus on future, and the future of products and apps generally, really to protect privacy, and for search engines to focus on do not track users. These are seen as more privacy friendly and less intrusive alternatives in terms of collecting data. So people nowadays are more concerned about who has access to their information and where is their data, due to data protection laws that have come in, the GDPR, the UK GDPR, as we know this in the UK, and the
Mhm.
EU GDPR in 2018, and the California Consumer Privacy Act. This legislation is making it harder for companies to collect and use data, personal data generally. Organizations that only rely on cookies for digital advertising will need to change their ways, really, and not collect data if they want to stay kind of relevant in this new post cookie world that we're coming into, and this more privacy friendly world, or the understanding of protecting data, putting that at the heart of what you do as a business. Users are much more wiser now to tracking
Mhm.
technologies and can use ad blocks, which block cookies and other tracking technologies.
Okay, that's fantastic, Sean. So first, I just want to say hello to a couple of people that are joining us here today. No wonder they didn't join us earlier. We didn't get any comments. That's because we went live. So thanks, Chelsea, Mike, Yana is there. Magda as well, Electra's joining us, George, Matt, Helen is joining us as well, Sarah and Ovi. Thanks very much for being there. Um, that's great to have you there. So, just to add on to what you mentioned, Sean, about marketing professionals being affected by it. So, I just want to extend that by saying what sort of marketing professionals that might be helpful. What sort of professions within the marketing space might be affected by this change? So, if you're just aiming to track your website visitors' behaviors, preferences, basic demographics only, while they're on your website or on your client's website, if you're an agency, then you probably won't be affected by this change. However, if you're a marketer that relies on data for online advertising or pop up ads, for example, then you'll most likely be affected, and you will need to consider alternative first party zero-party strategies in 2023. So we'll go on to talk about what first-party and what zero-party strategies are or data is later on. So I just want to give you a couple of examples here based on my experience. So if you're a brand marketing consultant or a designer, a design agency, most likely no, you won't be affected because you're delivering strategy, or you may be consultative in nature, or if you provide traditional design services, then it probably won't affect you. If you're an SEO agency or a web developer, probably not as well. If you build and optimize your clients' own websites and apps and you don't help them to advertise, then you're probably not affected by that. If you're a social media agency providing organic content marketing, you don't provide paid ad service, then probably not. Now, if you're an agency that's offering paid ads on Facebook, Instagram, or Google for your clients, then yes, you'll be collecting data and you'll be profiling specific audiences for your clients. And then you are going to retarget, likely you're going to be retargeting your clients' ads at these specific audiences that you've built up, knowing that some of your audience will likely click on the same ads that they see. So when Google phases out the third-party cookies, then these specific audiences that you have built out as an agency for your clients, i.e. those who are Google Chrome users. So those who are Google Chrome users, they will no longer be retargeted with these ads in the usual way, and therefore they won't see these ads following them around, which is great news for consumers, by the way. Maybe not so good news if you're an agency offering a paid ad service. So let's move on, shall we, to the next question there. So first party cookies, as I understand, they are allowed under EU regulations. Could you explain to us, Sean, what this means and where can we get further information on all of this?
Yeah, sure. So first party cookies are directly stored by a website or a domain. And the website or domain that you visit. And these cookies are used to identify user between pages, remember preferences, and store, for example, shopping cart information. So they allow for the collection of analytics data. They can remember language settings and will perform a range of other useful functions. An example of first party cookie would be when you sign into, for example, your Amazon account. The web browser will save data under the Amazon.com domain. And as a user, you'll be sure that you're actually interacting directly with Amazon. So you have that confidence and reassurance. And if a first party cookie was to be blocked, you would need to sign in every time to your Amazon account. So you could not just automatically purchase multiple items while shopping. So that's the difference really between the third party and the first party cookies.
So we can see that first party cookies are useful for our own, for our, for reasons being, as you mentioned, is convenient. It will otherwise be really annoying if we have to try and remember our password every time we log into the same site that we use week in, week out.
Yeah, and you'd be hard pushed really to find a website that doesn't use first party cookies. So, that's normally what is used.
Fantastic. So do you want to point us to some legislation that we can perhaps refer to, or shall I?
Sure.
Yeah, shall I pop
Yes.
the links in the chat? Maybe I'll try and do that now.
Yeah, so if you'd like to find more information on cookies generally, or the legislation in the UK, which is the Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulations called PECA, then you can find some more information about this on the Information Commissioner's website. The Information Commissioner is the UK data protection regulator, and we're going to put some links in the chat for you to access in just a moment. We have the other legislation surrounding data protection, and this is the GDPR, which we know in the UK as the EU GDPR now, and the UK GDPR, and we have in the EU the e-privacy directive, which is to be updated by the e-privacy regulations, and then we also have some legislation that is coming in, the Digital Service Act and the Digital Markets Act.
Fantastic. Do you see the links in the chat now, Sean?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's good. So, yeah, so those are the references to the legislation that Sean has mentioned. So, if you have any questions for Sean about this legislation, what it means, or need some advice there, then please feel free to message her directly or connect with Sean as well. I'll pop in her Sean's LinkedIn profile page so you can connect with her if you're not already connected. Is that all right, Sean?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So, shall we move on to talk about first party and zero party data? Shall I explain what that is
Yeah, sure.
in my own words? Um, so there's been talk of zero party data and first party data. So Sean has mentioned what that is, first party data. So zero party data, I believe, is a new definition. So essentially, that's data that you collect directly from your clients with their permission. So, for example, a very good example would be doing a survey and interviewing your clients for feedback, for example, or sending a questionnaire out directly to your clients and asking them directly for their feedback. So that would be what we constitute zero party data. Is that correct, Sean?
Yeah, so basically, zero party data is data customers intentionally and proactively share with you as a company, and specific customer preferences and interests basically would be zero party data. So customers know what they're giving to you in terms of their data. And then
Mm-hmm.
first party data is data you directly collect from customers during your contract or your relationship with them, and behavioral data, the implied interest. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for clarifying that further. So that's really helpful. So let's move on to talk about the app, shall we? The app privacy policy. So, as I understand, every app requires an app privacy policy, and we do have that in place as well when we build apps for our clients. So, now this privacy policy may be different from the privacy policy that we find on our websites. So, could you broadly tell us what needs to go into an app privacy policy and how is it different to a website privacy policy?
So a website privacy policy will collect data, will discuss the data you're collecting on your website. And an app privacy policy will discuss the data you're collecting on your app. Now, there are companies that combined this particular policy, um, but there needs to be an understanding what data is being collected on different platforms, should I say. So an app privacy policy would be similar to a website privacy policy. It would determine the data is collected on your app, and it will contain information about who you are as a business, if you're a registered company, and the data that you're collecting on the app. So this would be categories of personal data and how this data is collected. You'll need to have a lawful basis for processing data, and the 6 lawful bases are consent, contract, legal obligation, vital interest, public task, and legitimate interest. So the app privacy policy will state how data is used and who data is disclosed to or shared with in terms of third parties. And if the data is going to be transferred outside of the UK/EU, and what safeguards you may have in place for international data transfers. For example, if data is being transferred to the US or a non-adequate country, in accordance with the Information Commissioner's guidance. So it will also state how the data is kept secure and how it is retained, and confirm the customer's or the individual's data privacy rights. The data privacy rights include a right to access your personal data, correction of your personal data, erasure of your personal data, to the ability to object to processing of your personal data, and request restriction of processing of personal data. And then to transfer your personal data, or the right to withdraw consent. So these are the privacy rights, and they'll be stated in that privacy policy and your website privacy policy.
Okay, so there is a difference in the policies, and we can't always duplicate whatever we have on the website policy. That's what I understand. In general, we need to probably set aside a different app policy for the app for app users.
Yes, and I mean your privacy policy needs to um, um, do what it says and says what it does, and
Mhm.
basically has to represent and clearly state what data is being collected and processed.
Mhm. And the data could be different. The sort of data collected on an app and a website obviously could be very different.
It could be different depending
Yeah.
on, how your website is functioning and what who your
Hmm.
website is targeting, and then who your app is targeted towards. Um,
Okay. Fantastic. So that's great. So I just want to close the session by giving some examples. Hopefully, that will be helpful. Examples of first party and zero party uh, data collection strategies that you can adopt, for example, with an app. So there are three ways which I will talk about. So the first one is collecting data directly from your app users when they interact with your own app. So that's an example of first party data. On this, I'll say that iOS devices, Apple devices, will have a push notification which triggers off when you load an app on your iPhone. So it's so it's an opt-in process. It asks if you want to allow push notifications. Now, Android phones, as I understand, not all of them have this feature. So that means that with some Android phone users, you're going to get push messages whether you like it or not, unless you actually go into your device and opt out and change the settings and opt out to have push notifications. So to get around this, we are able to create a message center. So it's basically a depository for messages on the app. We can create that so when users can then choose to check their messages if they do not want to allow push notifications at all on their iPhones. They can actually click on the app and access the messages from there. Now, the second way of doing this is you can actually ask your app users what type of communication that they want to receive directly with your users. So, example, on an app platform, we do have a feature which automates the process of collecting customer preferences. So, that's an opt in process, and that's collecting zero party data, for example. So, quick example of a networking app. So, if you build a networking app for your members of the networking organization, you can ask your app users what type of events they might be interested in joining. So these are questions you can easily ask on the app. So you can ask them, for example, whether they want just to join online events only or in-person events. And if they click in-person events that they're interested in joining, then you could also ask them which location would they prefer to travel to, as in-person events are location specific, so they can state which places they want to travel to for these events. So that's an example of collecting customer preferences that way. And a third example I'm going to mention is simply conducting a one-to-one survey on the app, collecting direct feedback from your customers. And this you can use just a simple questionnaire you can set up on the app, or we can set this up on the app for you. And you can send out the questionnaire to all your customers via a push notification. So that will be an example of collecting zero party data through a survey that you can activate on your app. And you can do the same as well with the app by triggering a Google or Facebook customer review request on the app. So, for example, if a customer enters a restaurant and downloads the app, for example, we can activate the push notification, excuse me, asking the customer to give a review. So, when a customer chooses to do that, again, this is an opt-in process. They can choose not to, but if they do choose to give a good review, then it will go straight to publish on the business's own Google or Facebook pages. So all that is automated. So these are just three ways that I'd like to share with you where your clients can collect zero and first party data with an app. And with that, that would most probably better inform your marketing strategies on other channels as well. For example, email marketing would be one of the ways that you can use first party and zero party data to better inform your email marketing and other channels as well. So I hope that's helpful. We've tried to pack it with lots of information there. Thank you very much for joining us, Sean. Do you have any last words for the audience?
Thank you very much, Joyce, for having me, and thank you for giving us more information from an industry perspective. That's been really, really useful. Thank you so much.
That's all right. Thank you. I don't think we have any specific questions from the audience as I can see on my phone. Thank you very much for joining us, and bye for now.
Bye bye.